Today I'm going to talk about a game that I've waited for a long time to play, and this is Gaia Project. This is a Terra Mystica game, and by that, it's kind of Terra Mystica in space, but with a lot more and a lot of different stuff. And I kind of want to start off by saying that recently I've played some sequels to games that are just really innovative. I played Pandemic Legacy Season 2, this one, I guess just those two, but it feels like a lot, and I think it's really cool that designers are taking games that people know and love and giving them new life without making the original irrelevant. I still love Terra Mystica, and even though I've only played it once, I'm really, really enjoying Gaia Project. I can't wait to play it again, and I see both staying in my collection for a long time. There are two mechanisms I want to talk about in this game. One I think is kind of core to Terra Mystica, so if you're a Terra Mystica fan, you might find this one interesting. In Gaia Project, instead of the cult tracks that are in Terra Mystica, we have tech tracks, of course, because it's a space game. You can kind of see those tech tracks here. And these do a lot of cool things. Like when you move up these tracks, there's an action that lets you move up these tracks, and there's another way to move up the tracks. But when you do, you can gain one-time bonuses, you can improve your abilities on an ongoing basis, or you can improve your income. And there's just a lot of variety here, and you can get endgame points for them, which are you get 4 points for every level above, for 3, 4, 5. You get 4 points at the end of the game for those levels that you're on. The other really cool thing about these tracks, and so just in general, it's really satisfying to move up different tracks. I've only played once. I think I moved up really high on the navigation track and not as high on the other tracks. So I'm excited to play another game and move up in different ways on different tracks. But the other really cool thing about this is the second way that you move up on the tracks is when you gain, I think they're called tech tiles in this game, or advancement tiles, something like that. You gain them in a very similar way to Terra Mystica. Terra Mystica has, I believe they're called favor tiles, the little ovals that you gain. They give you an ongoing ability or a one-time ability. And then you move up a corresponding cult track in Terra Mystica. In this game, there's a lot more variability with it because at the beginning of the game, you randomly put out the stacks of the tech tiles, essentially the favor tiles, below each of these tracks, and then 3 that are just not associated with any of the tracks. And what this does is that whenever you take one of these, one of the tech tiles, you move up on that corresponding track. So they're not always, like they're never paired with the same track. Unlike in Terra Mystica where they're always paired with the same cult track. In this game, it's random, and so your decision point when you gain a favor tile is not only which favor tile do I want, but also which tech track do I want to move up. Now, the more universal mechanism that I wanted to mention really quick is connecting disconnected things in this game and in any game. In Terra Mystica, you might recall that at certain points you're going to want to create a city. And a city is a connected group of different settlements and buildings that you control. In Gaia Project, there's a similar mechanism called a federation. So you're trying to make a federation instead of a city, and you're doing that by connecting your buildings that are out here on these tiles. The difference here is that you have a lot of space in this game. So it's like in Terra Mystica, if you had almost all rivers and then only a few tiles. There's a lot of space. And to connect your buildings, you often have to place something in between to connect them. And in this case, when you're ready to make a federation, you take an action to do it. It's not a passive thing. It's an action where you say, okay, in this turn, I'm ready to make a federation. And what you do is you sacrifice your power tokens. Power tokens are these things that you circulate in the game to get various abilities. It's kind of a multi-resource. You have to sacrifice power tokens, 1 per satellite you want to make. And satellites are just tokens, little cubes that you put on the space hexes to connect your planets, the planets that you control. Now think about this for a second, how cool this is, because what the game is letting you do is they're letting you connect things across vast breaches of space if you want to. Yeah, ideally, like on this tile, you would have buildings on green and purple and yellow and blue. And you would just place 1 satellite here because it only costs you 1 power. You permanently remove that power token. But if you wanted, I might have maybe 2 buildings here, and then maybe this tile gets pretty crowded with other stuff by other people, and I want to connect something on another tile, or even 2 tiles away. And Gaia Project enables you to connect all of that stuff using the satellites. It might cost a lot. There's definitely a cost to it, but I love the flexibility of doing that. And I can see how in other games where you're trying to connect things to form a cluster or a group, how this level of flexibility creates a much a less frustrating and a more interesting decision to allow those vast connections with a cost. This was really exciting, particularly at the end of the game of the Gaia Project, where I got to the point where I had no more actions to take, and I realized I had a chance to connect some stuff that were on opposite ends of the board. I couldn't quite do it, but just the possibility made that end game decision really, really exciting and added some really interesting choices throughout the game and especially at the end of the game. So yeah, if you have any examples of games that that allow you to connect or group things, but without too many constraints, where players feel powerful when they do it instead of frustrated and limited, I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Thanks.